Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to Artofmanslife. My name is Ali. Thanks so much for watching and I hope you're keeping well. So I've now bought quite a few sets from FunWhole / Lumibricks Town Life theme. I got the newsstand, the book cafe, balcony theater, and most recently, and I was a bit late to the party, the antique store. I have a couple of videos dedicated to the antique store, my thoughts and review on it, and also which modular goes best next to the antique store. So those will be coming up soon. But before that, I thought with those sets, because there's quite a few of them now, how best they would go in a street layout. And also how look at some of the challenges trying to incorporate those sets into a Lego City layout, especially with their odd sizes. And in our Lego cities, our real estate is always in modules of 16, right? Or 32 by 32 base plates. So I thought it would be good fun to mess around with that and show you how potentially you could have it in a Town Life Lumibricks street layout. Let's check it out. I think the biggest challenge with putting these three buildings together was the book cafe set. That's the one that gave me the most headache. Because unfortunately, it wasn't quite 16 studs wide. It was 18 studs wide. And that's a shame with those extra 2 studs. I mean, the easiest way you could put this onto a full 32 by 32 base plate and you'll have a large open space that you can put some benches, landscaping, you know, as definitely an option. However, for me personally, because space is such a premium on my city table, I need to capitalize as much space as possible. So the other set that I did have was the newsstand. And when I first built this, I put this onto a half base plate, mills plate. And so it's flexible for me to put on at the end of any street or in between 2 buildings and have another base plate behind it. So there's some flexibility there. But then I realized, you know what, I can actually use this set to place it on a full 32 by 32 plate with the book cafe. The dimensions just about work out. So the first thing that I would need to do was, dismantle it from the mills plate and keep it a bit more smaller footprint. So then I have the flexibility of being able to place that in a different position in a full base plate with the book cafe. Now with the book cafe, even though it is 18 studs, you have to bear in mind you have this little awning on the right hand side, and even if you put that building right to the side of it, you just got to be wary that that awning does overhang by at least a stud. So you got to be careful that any other buildings that you place next to it doesn't crash into each other or cause a conflict there. So it's good to be a little bit prepared in advance for that. So I think the direction I'm going to go for is try and combine first the book cafe and the newsstand into one 32 by 32 plate. That will then be far easier to create a street layout with the antique store, which is already on a 32 by 32 plate, and the balcony theater, which I just put onto a 32 by 32 plate, even though it is only 24 studs wide. 26 studs wide. You are left with 6 studs at the end of it, and that is just not enough space to create another building or to put something else on there. So you are left, unfortunately, with 6 studs worth of space that you can put in benches or little trees or some other activity on there, which isn't too bad actually. It adds a bit of liveliness to the city. But let's get cracking first on the book cafe and newsstand. So I've now taken the newsstand off the mills plate and kind of reworked it to place it onto a real estate of 22 studs in length and 12 studs in depth. You can see this is still hanging around, and that's fine because I can plop that on wherever I place it onto a new mills plate. One other thing that I did remove were these pieces hanging over the door. The reason being is it did overhang more than this one stud place that you have. So if I want to have it flush right close up next to the building, I don't have to waste another stud worth of space. So now with this in its own like little unit, it gives me the flexibility that if I do change my mind that I don't want it on a Pacific Mills plate next to a building, I can always take it out and put it onto its own little half base plate Mills plate. So that was pretty cool. That keeps it really nice and flexible, which is very key for me. So now let's mess around with how we can place this next to the book cafe set, and just figure out some ideas, and also try and see how it would look like in a whole street lineup. So to help plan without constructing up a full mills plate and then realizing, oh, you know what, I want to change the position of the buildings of the two sets on the plate, I thought let's just do a little mock-up that's easy to mess around with the locations of things. So I just come up with a very flexible way of doing this, taking the base plate, putting in some large plates in there just to get the first level of height in there, and a few jumper plates strategically placed, and some tiles just to help get it to the right height, but then it's easy and flexible enough for me to, with ease, take off the buildings and shift them around the plate if I don't like the layout of it. So the first layout I would probably try was the one I really started off with. If I take the book cafe and place this just on top there, so at least now it's at the right height, so I can easily mess around, and it looks as close as possible to how the finished product will look like. So the first option was to place the book cafe on the mills plate with having a 2-stud gap from the edge of this set, which is, remember, is 18 studs wide. And the reason for that was because of this awning. It comes out more than the last stud here, and also you do want to have a little bit of a walkway for minifigures to come down as well, should I have places next to a building where the next building really is to the edge of that base plate. So it gives some flexibility, some breathing room, shall we say. And now with the newsstand that I've put onto its own little mini plate of 22 by 12 studs, I can now mess around and position this quite well, how I originally wanted to have it, like this. So now that gives a pretty good, at least the right level height and visualization of how that's going to look in the street. And now with that, it does look okay. I mean, you have got one stud here, this gap here. I don't mind that. Placing this next to it here, it does hide a little bit of it. And, you know, I'm actually thinking maybe this is a little bit too there, to the right a little bit. And I could always just, this is what I mean about flexibility. Let me just shift it across and maybe just one more stud, so that becomes a lot more centered. Maybe that's the way we do this. And you still got plenty of room here. You got a nice walkway here, and you still have the possibility of entering in the street lamp on this side where it was originally. that might work. That looks a bit better. So I guess what I was trying to do was, without building up the whole plate and fixing it on there, then realizing, wow, you know what? Yeah, it looked better one stud across rather than rebuilding the whole thing. At least then I can double check of how I can do that. So that's a pretty good tip in terms of positioning things. But at the end of the day, it's a whole ensembler. So what does it look like with the other sets from the Town Life that I have, the antique store and the theatre? Let's put them in a line and let's see if indeed it does look okay with this layout as it is. Let's give that a go. So here's one configuration, and I believe it's probably the default configuration that is suggested by Lumibricks. And the only reason I say that is the way they have the dark tile and the edge of the building of the set. It's all continuous into one line here. Obviously we didn't have it here because I've taken it off, but that is probably the way they recommend it to be. I'm not sure I'm buying it that much. I'm not sure I'm game here. I mean, even though we have a nice bit of space in between the two buildings and a little bit of a walkway through there, I'm not sure if that's the most nicest view for a minifigure to have when they're in the book cafe. And I'm not sure I really like to have this bit exposed of the antique corner on this side, because I always thought this should be better hidden on the other side. The book cafe is fine, and the theatre itself, I mean, it's a bit plain but boring, but it's not that ugly. At least the colors are pretty uniform, and you know, this alleyway down here, it's doable. I mean, it's a nice little space as well. It gives a bit of breathing space. But I think the biggest thing for me, I think the antique corner set is the thing that's probably causing me a bit of a problem here, that it's not that aesthetically pleasing. And especially this hourglass sign, it's hidden there, and I think that should be really shown and shown off, I think. So what I might do, let's turn around this middle antique store. Let's turn it around and let's see if we can just play around with that and see how that looks. Okay, I switched off the lamp at the back and actually put the lights on for the set, just to... Why not? Right? It's Lumibricks, and it's all about the lights. So I think immediately this is a far better layout. I'm really, really loving this layout. I think here, now, the book cafe and the antique store go hand in hand. It really makes sense now for me. Especially when you got both awnings opposite side, it keeps that uniformity. The fonts across, you've got a nice little walkway here now. It's a nice view either side, and you know, you got an entrance in this side. You got an entrance into the store that side, so it makes logical sense for a minifigure as well, and it's quite aesthetically pleasing. And that's a really nice alleyway to have a little section coming through. And now this sign is really visible, it's not hidden away, and then even though you still have a wider now breathing space between the two buildings of the antique store and the theatre, this alleyway actually makes more sense. And you know what, I can even populate it up with, you can see like a trash can there, populate up with more stuff as well. So this might be a really cool area just to put stage transport and create a story, like the artwork being transported through here. So I think it makes more logical sense. Now you'll notice the theatre that I placed onto a Mills plate has this section here, and the reason being I did place this set as far as possible to the left on here, because it wasn't a full 32 width, and you're left with just 6 studs, too short for any kind of building or anything. So this will be tiled up, and I think what would be cool if we extend like a waiting queue all the way here, and I think that would be really cool to have a queue of people waiting to go and see the show. I think that would be a pretty good idea, and to create a story that way around. And I think, I'm thinking ahead with their other sets, the Brick Art Gallery and the Gelato store. I think that will be quite nice to add in on this side. So far, this is probably my favorite layout. But let's swap things around, and let's have a look at just to see what other layouts look like. Let's have some fun. So here I've just taken the book cafe and just flipped it onto the other side, keeping these two buildings exactly the same as it was before. I think what this enables now is just really does expose the beauty of the antique store. I can imagine just the road here, and the junction carrying on this way, and then leaving the layout as it was with the book cafe on this Mills plate to the right, and this the newsstand to the left. Because next to the theatre, I've got all this space, and now that gives a really nice area and gathering area to for people to visit the newsstands, and pick up their latest copy of the newspaper or comic or magazine, and that actually, or even maybe some black market tickets. But that really then gives a lot of breathing space to this layout. Now, the only downside to this one, it leaves a big gap between the two buildings. So wherever you're having a city layout, you got to make sure that whatever building is behind here, or maybe it's open space, or whatever is behind there, is also aesthetically pleasing, or you're not trying to any ugly behinds of any buildings will be exposed because of that. That's the only downside of this one. Other than that, I think it looks really, really cool. But let's keep to this layout. But let's swap these around on the plate and see what that looks like. Right. Swapping them around on that plate is really quick because of the flexibility I have now. I shifted this right to the start now. I don't need to save any studs because there's no awning on this side, and it's fairly flush. That side isn't particularly ugly, it's quite smooth, so it doesn't mind being exposed. And this gap in between, it's more than fine and doable. But I'm not sure I like having the newsstand like this next to the book cafe, because again, you have the same problem that you had before, is you kind of block the access for that side of the book cafe with the awning and the entrance there. And again, that's not a really nice view. It does allow, the only good thing, it does allow the door access for the newsstand. So for the guy who runs it, at least he can get out easily. That might be the way. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's not too bad. But I think as a whole, it's probably not. It's not a layout that I like too much. I'm not sure I like the descending heights of the buildings going through. When you look at it, it just looks really odd. So that's not probably for me. I'm going to change the layout back to what I had it before. And let's then swap the layouts again. So I reverted back to where it was, but I thought let's put them in the middle and see how that looks. What do you guys think? I'm pretty indifferent to this look. I'm not sure I'm fully convinced that it looks great, or even if it works. I still think we have a problem here. This seems a little bit too cramped. Yeah, I'm not sure. So I just changed the orientation of the antique store, and that actually looks not bad at all. Because of the lower height of the newsstand, the sign is still visible quite well. It looks quite nice back there. Again, you see the beauty of the antique store from here because it's not hidden or obstructed by another building, because that's there. You still have a bit of real estate here to make it quite easy. I'm not sure if that awning is going to cause that much of a problem. No, it's still okay. It's still not bad at all. It doesn't clash. So I think you're okay there. Again, I mean, here you have a bit of a problem, but you know, this is only because I still have this set. I don't always have to have this set next to here. It could be one of the future ones that I haven't bought yet. So that layout can change a little bit. So again, this is probably quite up there as a layout. It's not bad at all, actually. So here's one last configuration, just to continue the shift of where the book cafe goes in the layout. This time the theatre is in the middle, antique store on the right. It works. There's the gap between the theatre and the antique store is wider than I would have liked, but again, it gives a lot of space for storytelling and activities to go there. I mean, the only caveat with this side is that you would definitely need to have more buildings on this side, of course, to continue the block. I mean, I do see the antique core as a corner build, rightly or wrongly. I don't think FunWhole did, because if I put it to this side, you know, I think their anticipation was this was the layout, and then you have more buildings on the right hand side connecting up to it. And on the left, and you can see a little bit of a problem with this antique store. You see my cable is sticking out there for the power and for the lights. That looks really ugly and does get in the way. So the complication with that I thought that I would face with the book cafe and the newsstand is quite minimal compared to the complication you would have with the antique store to try and get that integrated. Because depending on which way you have it, you may need to shift the location of the power source for that building so it doesn't get in the way. It's difficult, huh? It's quite tough. So for a person like me who loves to have flexibility and shifting this around in different locations and keep changing the layout of my Lego city, it can be quite frustrating then if I even change the orientation of this building to from this side or to this side, and if I did shift the power cable to this side, it might have the same problem, so I'll have to revert it back. So that's a little bit annoying. It may vary by your mileage in terms of how your layouts are. If you keep it into one place and stuck into one place, but when you're looking for flexibility, yeah, it was a poor design choice from the antique store. But in Lumibricks' defense, it was one of their first sets, and they have learned a lot. I mean, even comparing antique store to the theatre set, you can see the improvements from there to here. I mean, even across the board, even from book cafe to the antique store to the theater, and even this one was such a springboard of ideas to help them have some great sets like the record store and the skate shop. And I'm sure that even the more recent ones, the Brick Art Gallery and the Gelato store, I mean, they keep improving with each set, so you have to give them some credit here, absolutely. So, but that's what brick building's all about: flexibility, keep on rebuilding to make it to your own design. This is probably not the layout I'm going to have it in. I'm probably going to go back to the very first layout that I had, and I think that is going to be the way. But anyway, I hope that helped you figure out how you want to do your layout, give you some ideas and some tips, especially integrating the book cafe and newsstand into the set, into the layout, excuse me, and how we can have this as a street. Let me know how you guys have got it laid out, and if you do have it on meals, what other challenges you face. I'd love to know. I'd love to share and let me know. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Until next time. Peace and love.